The beginning of a great life is understanding self. Understanding yourself, knowing how to manage yourself, and then it becomes easier to manage people, to manage things, and then to lead a successful life. And in understanding yourself, it's important for you to have a good idea of yourself, which is called self-concept. The idea you have about yourself will determine to a great extent how you can manage yourself towards success or failure. So, different research work has shown that the self-concept of a person will determine the identity that that person has about himself. Because every one of us draw strength out of our self-identity. And your identity has to do with the way you situate yourself in relations to other people, how you see yourself, what impressions do you have about yourself as it relates to other people. Now, for you to be able to have a very good self-identity, you must be able to be in charge of your identity creation. And that starts with your self-concept. Also, researchers have found out that our identity comes from three different sources, or probably more, but three primary ones. Number one is situational identity. That is an impression of yourself that you have based on the situation you find yourself. I normally give this example. There was a man who was a bank CEO, and as a bank CEO, the man was in charge of several banks, and he actually was given a very good accommodation somewhere in Ibro of Lagos, Nigeria. And where he was living was a big mansion, had two kids and a wife. And because of the amount he was earning, he told his wife not to work. And so his wife was a full-time housewife, but engaged only in domestic activity without any commercial base. Fast forward, suddenly something happened to him, and then he died. But before he died, his children were going to one of the most expensive schools in Lagos. They pay in millions. And then drivers take them to school. They were what you will call the rich kid. Excuse me. Then suddenly he died. And then when he died, the bank came to possess the property because it wasn't his own. He had not built a house. The little resources that he had left, his family members came, as the case is with some African culture. They took over, took possession, and left the woman hanging. So the woman had to go back to the village to stay with her mother. So she went with these two kids. And they got to the village. Maybe the first two times, they were fairly okay. Not very okay, but fairly okay. By the third time, because grandmother too was barely just trying to survive. Nothing much. So they had to move from village private school to public school. And then they would go to school sometimes without shoe, torn clothes, and sometimes without school bags or textbooks. Wait a minute. If you are going to describe those children in the first phase of their life when their father was around, how will you identify them? Certainly, I know the answer you are going to give. They're a rich kid. So the identity is that of a rich kid. And then, how do you describe them when their father had gone and they are now in public primary school? I know how you describe them. Children of the poor. So they are poor kids. But do you know, in reality, there is none of those two that is their identity. It's just situation that was defining them. In the same way as you go the journey of life, situations will give you an identity. Some people are married and then for whatever reasons they got divorced. Some people are doing businesses and for whatever reason the business just didn't succeed. One first time, second time, and then the situation is trying to give you a name or a face, a description. And if the care is not taken, you accept the description that the situation gives you and it becomes your identity. Interestingly, people also try to give you an identity based on the situations that you find yourself. Not only does situation give you an identity, There's what we also call the social identity. Identity that you draw as a result of you belonging to a group. For example, in Nigeria, there are three major ethnic groups. So, whichever ethnic group that you belong, there is a stereotype of people when it comes to ethnic groups. So, they tell you that the Yoruba man has this way of doing things. The Igbo man loves money, or the Hausa man loves power. The Yoruba man likes to do this, and all of that. So, all you need to have an identity is to belong to any of those groups, and then they will give you that stereotype. There's a stereotype for young people generally. You expect that, oh, young people, an average young person does this, an average young person does that. Now, if care's not taken, depending on the group or, that you belong, or the phase of life that you are in, there's a tendency for you to be given a stereotype identity, and then you accept that and run by that. And then there's the last source of identity, which is self-crafted, where you are in charge of the identity, you are intentional about it, particularly you are intentional about how you want to be perceived, and you are in charge of the narrative. You are the one that is really crafting the narrative. And how do you craft the narrative? Not by telling people, but by how you handle yourself and present yourself. That is very important in the journey of life and destiny. If you are going to fulfill your destiny and become your best, you've got to know quite early on time that you've got to be in charge of the narration of your life, the narrative of your life. You have to be at the driver's seat. And how do you sit at the driver's seat of the narrative of your life? You start with your self-concept. How do you perceive yourself? How do you see yourself? With self-concept, there are important key construct or key factors that you need to put into consideration. Number one is your self-image. Your self-image is a mental picture, mental ideal that you hold about yourself. The picture that you have of yourself within your mind. Now, when it comes to your self-image, there are three phases of your self-image. There is an image of your past, who you are before. There is an image of your present based on the situations that you find yourself. And there is an ideal image of the future, what you want to be. So you need to be able to know how to jostle the interaction between who you used to be and who you are now and who you plan to be. Okay. Who you used to be, based on how you grew up and all of that, who you used to be, the past experiences that you have. Now you are you now based on several decisions, bad or good. So presently you are something now. But you've got to also be able to ask yourself, is this the best version of me that I can be? And if that's not the best version of you that you can be, you can make some adjustments and changes on yourself, within yourself, to move to the next level of who you want to be. I'll give you an example. I started life with certain behavioral and attitudinal qualities that I wasn't proud of. That was not the best that I could be. And I was operating on that platform of that old self. And I got to a point, I said to myself, is this the best I can be? And I said to myself, this is not the best I can be. I can become a better version of myself. So what did I do? I hold a picture in my mind of what I want to be, who I want to be, and I began to work towards who I want to be. I'll give you another example. Started out at a point in time because I went to local schools while I was growing up as a young person, local primary school, local secondary school. So a little of my English was affected, the way I speak. I miss my tenses and all of that. I couldn't construct good tenses and all of that. And I went through school that way. But it got to a point in time that I had to ask myself, do I want to continue like this, speaking in a way that is not attractive or impressive, or I want to be a better version? So I had a picture in my mind. I want to be a speaker that would be able to inspire people, encourage people, inspire learning. And if I'm going to be that kind of a person that I had in my mind, then I need to make some change. So I started making some changes. So the person that I was then, I had changed from who I was then to who I am now. Can I tell you the truth? this is not my best version. I'm already seeing a better version of myself ahead of me. So I'm also working on myself presently to become a better version of me. And this can actually be in different aspects of your life, financially, academically, career-wise, and all of that. The honest truth is that you must learn to keep improving you so that you can become a better version of yourself. But the rule of the game is that it starts with an image in your mind. There is an impression in your mind about you. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's subconscious. You are aware of it sometimes, you are not aware of it sometimes, but it's best when you are aware of the kind of picture that is in your mind. What's the picture in your mind about yourself? Every one of us hold a picture in our mind about ourselves. And the irony of it is that you also hold a picture in your mind about other people. So the picture you have in your mind forms how you rate people. The way you see people, the picture you have of people in your mind will determine how you rate them. So sometimes you see people and in your mind you have a picture and you rate them as either poor or rich, either successful or failure. Okay, so you have a picture in your mind, and the picture you have in your mind of people is interestingly interact with the picture you have in your mind of yourself. So to some extent, you have a rating of yourself as you see other people. You have a rating of yourself in comparison with them, subconsciously and sometimes at conscious level. Now that rating creates a feeling, because the picture you have about yourself will ultimately generate a way you will feel about yourself. Sometimes you feel good about yourself and sometimes you feel bad about yourself based on the picture that you have. Now that feeling about yourself, the feeling towards yourself based on the image or the picture that you have about yourself, is what we call your self-esteem. And your self-esteem, because feelings are very powerful, your self-esteem will become a driving force for your life, driving you as you relate and interact with people, friends, families, your bosses, colleagues at work. Like it or not, your self-esteem will come into play as you relate with people. And don't forget, we said your self-esteem is drawn from your self-image, and both your self-image and your self-esteem will have an effect on your identity. I mean, the way you see yourself. Okay, so let's make progress. Now you find people have either low self-esteem or normal self-esteem. Now among those who have low self-esteem, there are people who have negative self-esteem that expresses itself in aggression. These people cover up for the low self-esteem, and because they feel low about themselves, they are very defensive. So when they see other people that they have felt in their mind probably has something that they don't have, or they feel have some superiority around them and all of that, and they don't like the fact that that kind of a person have some superiority edge around them, they begin to react towards those people. So when you see people who react, who become so aggressive and all that, sometimes it might be as a result of low self-esteem. Okay, now you then have on the other hand this set of people who their low self-esteem expresses itself in a state where they withdraw, they become quiet, they are subservient to other people. So you have another set of people who express their low self-esteem from the perspective of being subservient to other people. Because they feel low about themselves, they feel inferior. So the way they relate with other people, they are afraid, they are skeptical, they are naive. You see them always withdraw because they are not sure of how others are going to receive them. Either it is aggressive expression or it is subservient expression. Low self-esteem is a bad thing, and that's what you really don't want to do. Therefore, it becomes necessary to be in charge of yourself, to be able to work on yourself. And that requires key factors that have been identified in the past. Number one, you've got to understand that you are important. So learn to respect yourself. So we talk about self-respect. Respect yourself. And when you respect yourself, it means that you handle yourself well. You treat yourself well. And as you relate with people, you are telling yourself you are important as others are important. We're not necessarily talking about the fact that you overrate yourself, but we're talking about the fact that you respect yourself, you place premium on yourself, you place some value on yourself. And I must tell you, this is not very easy. Sometimes you've got to take time to speak to yourself. And that's where sometimes your faith comes in, your relationship with God, your creator. The sincere truth is that everybody is created important. God, the creator, made you important. And it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter some abnormalities around you. There is something unique about you. Just a few days ago, I was watching a video of a young man with cerebral palsy. And he was singing very powerfully. And you can see people applauding him and all of that. That despite that disability, he still was able to find ability in his disability to find expression. There was a man called Nick. Nick didn't have hands, or hands were not there, the limbs were off, and then looks tiny and short. Yet Nick was his great motivational speaker, affecting several people despite his disability. So the reality is that there is nobody that is disadvantaged. Yes, truly there may be one or two things that are not like what you will like around you, but I'll tell you, there is advantage, there is ability in disability. If only you will focus on the positive, and then you will move, because there is a reason for which you are created. So respect yourself, value yourself, place premium on yourself, appreciate yourself. That irrespective of what you don't have, irrespective of what your background looks like and all that, appreciate yourself. You know the reason why you have to do that. We are not the same. And so our experiences, our background, and the things that we will be allowed to pass through, the things that we'll be allowed not to have or to have, is a function of the life that we are designed to live. And as a result of that, you've got to look inside your own situation and your context and appreciate what you have there and just maximize it to move yourself forward. So you start with respecting yourself. Number two is for you to start building confidence in yourself. Now, this is not talking about you just overconfidence or thereabout, but I'm talking about the fact that you start learning to believe in yourself. Look within yourself and believe in yourself that you can make it. Believe in yourself that you can be great. Now, the reason why this is necessary is that if you wait for the approval of others to believe in yourself, you will have problem, because it means that people who cannot see your potential, your innate potentials, they will judge you by their opinions. And men are good at judging by the surface. They look at you from the surface value. Only few people can look at you and look beyond the surface and see depth that is not yet manifesting and rate you by what is on the inside as potential. So irrespective of what people do or what people say, because people will say negative things, people will do terrible things to you, life will not treat you well, you've got to make up your mind to believe in yourself. So let me make you do something. Say to yourself, Shegun, I believe that you are great. You are here on earth to make a difference. No matter what you have gone through, you have ability to survive. You are a great man. You are on journey to greatness, and you will succeed. Can you say that to yourself one more time? Oh, good. Let me give you this assignment. Say that to yourself every day. Look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, Shegun, you are a great man, an amazing phenomenal. You're about to express greatness. You're about to show the world the great things that you can. You say it to yourself over and over again. Re-echo that to yourself, and that will really help you. Number three is that you have to self-motivate yourself. In other words, you have to encourage yourself. Most times people will not encourage you. Situations of life will not encourage you. But you need to sit down with yourself and say, hey, you can make it. You've got to look around you, look at the situations that you're going through and all of that. And despite all of the challenges in your life, you tap yourself and say, hey, Shegun, dust yourself, let's move. There are greater things, there are greater territories to conquer. So you motivate yourself, because you may not always get people to motivate you. Life may not always be fair. But if you will keep saying to yourself, keep encouraging yourself, keep motivating yourself, then you find yourself doing greater things than you expect. Why are we dealing with all of this? God needs you to make you to succeed. Can I repeat myself? God needs you to make you to succeed. And that's the reason why one of the first things God deals with whenever he meets with a person, he wants to use a person, makes them great, is to deal with their self-identity. And one of the things he tries to deal with in their self-identity is what they think about themselves and how they feel. And one of such is fear. You know, when you don't believe in yourself, you're afraid. You're afraid of your life. You're afraid of life. You're afraid of attempting. You're afraid of taking risks. You're afraid of taking bold steps and all of that. It's self-problem. Self-problem. So, in this fulfillment series, my assignment is to help you to see how to navigate to get to where you're going. And we are saying the foundation is start dealing with yourself. Start working on yourself. Start believing in yourself. Start developing a healthy self-concept. Develop a healthy image of yourself. Sit down with yourself. Ask yourself, who do I want to be? And guess what? There are people who are already existing who are the reality of your dreamed future. Their today is your dreamed future, even though you will still be greater than them. But their today is your dreamed future. So look at them and use them as model. There is something about the human mind. If it has a model to work with, it will have a direction to go. So have a model, a role model, somebody who is in the role that you really want to get to, the role that you want to aspire to, and have that picture and say, hey, I want to be like that. And then you start working towards it. Start working towards it. As you work on yourself, work on yourself, work on yourself, you get to a point that you suddenly find yourself, you're already there. Then you pick another one to keep moving. But by all means, make sure that the picture in your mind of yourself is healthy. And guess what? Start working on yourself to enjoy yourself. Feel good about yourself. And as I part, please never allow the situation around you to define who you are. You are bigger than that situation. You could have been raised in poverty. You could have experienced some failures. You are bigger than them. There's something on the inside of you that is still yet crying for greater expression. And above all, make sure your relationship with God is very serious and takes Him serious. Because life is more spiritual than physical. So if your relationship with your Creator is strong, He helps you and guides you to be able to build a healthy and glorious self-concept. Till I come your way again, keep fulfilling destiny.